It's really about reminding the broader community, not just the Indigenous folks who will be here tonight, but the settlers, that we are still actively grieving, lamenting disconnection, death, and the ongoing genocide of the Canadian government.
In Winnipeg, a trio of Cree artists are reimagining a 17th century opera about grief. Titled Lament, it tells a story of loss, disconnection, and mourning from an Indigenous perspective.
The idea for this Lament concert was to kind of take over these European classical laments from the 17th century and reframe them with Jessica's amazing works that talk about the way we grieve.
On Wednesday, composer and flutist Jessica Swarvier-Wells, baritone Jonathan Adams, and filmmaker Tyson Houseman are premiering the work with the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra. One song, called For Nikawe, is dedicated to Swarvier-Wells' birth mother. They were disconnected through the 60s scoop.
In the lyrics, I put it all back on the government and those institutions that forced that relationship apart. And it's also a prayer to, and I guess a lament, for that lost connection.
Another, Lament for Sans Souls, is dedicated to the children who never returned home from residential school.
Lament for Small Souls, which was written after the discovery of the 751 unmarked graves in Cowes, which is where I was from. It's still really hard to perform because I'm lamenting all of those souls, but also it's the same school that my late grandmother went to.
To bring the score to life, filmmaker Tyson Houseman created visuals to be projected during the performance.
I'm trying to touch on a lot of aspects of like intrinsic Indigenous connections between bodies and land. There's a lot that talks about wildfires. There's an entire sequence that set in a recently destroyed, burned down forest area. It's touching on a lot of topics.
While they're grateful for the opportunity, the artists say the classical music world still has a lot of work to do.
I think that the classical music world has a long way to go. I don't think that we are at any point close to having equity within the field. It feels tokenistic most of the time.
The issue of our stories being framed in a convenient or digestible or palatable way for Canadians, that's nonsense. So at the end of the day, collaborations like this are really meaningful.
Lament debuts on Wednesday evening at the Des Hotels Concert Hall in Winnipeg. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.